Welcome to the good, the bad, and the sequel with your hosts, Doug and Jamie.
We are back, and this is the movie podcast where we're talking sequels, and we do it in two parts. The first, an interview with an actor, someone involved that made the film worth watching, and the second, discussion of the sequel, what they got right, what they got wrong, and how it could have been better. I really hope you enjoyed last week's interview with Bruce Lanoil. Man, that guy, the career he had, he worked on The Muppets, Theodore Rex, Dinosaurs on ABC, all the things that we love. But before we dive into this week's movie that I've never seen before, I have to introduce you to my partner in the sequel watching journey, Jamie Riccardi. Jamie, how you doing?
I'm feeling a little loony after I watched this movie. I'm surprised I'd never seen it either. I thought I did. I might be glad I didn't see it again. So,
okay.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan.
All right, so this might be a little bit of an opposite because I've never seen the movie before. And even though growing up, Looney Tunes always had like that adult humor, man, they really towed the line in this one, and I enjoyed it.
Well, that's my question. Who is this movie for?
Oh, I would say the same audience. Like, it's 2003 when this came out, so maybe it was one of those movies that were like, you know what, we're not getting the kids anymore. Maybe we have to like have those jokes so the parents enjoy it too. I don't know.
Well, I mean, a lot of kids are not going to know who Bugs Bunny were, the younger ones at 2003. But I can't, like, most of the jokes were way over their head. I mean, they're all definitely related towards adults, but I can't see adults going there without children to watch it. So I really don't know who the main audience was supposed to be. I mean, yeah. I know it was technically supposed to be a sequel to Space Jam, correct?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But there was I think there was behind the scenes stuff that was going on, so they couldn't technically make it a sequel. But we'll be interested to talk about.
I think it's a sequel in the vein. I was trying to think of it when I was watching it because my wife was like, "Is this really a sequel?" And I'm like, "Well, it's like The Great Muppet Caper, really a sequel. It uses the same cast of characters, but is it really a sequel? It's not a continuing in a storyline. It's just the same characters."
That's what it turned out to be. But I was reading a little research on it, and it was supposed to technically be a sequel. They wanted this movie to be a sequel to Space Jam, and then they had multiple different types of Space Jams. It didn't work out, and I think there was behind the scenes, like I said, with maybe one of the directors that didn't want to go a certain way, so they kind of threw it together. And I think that's why some of it did not work. But we'll get into it.
All right. Well, right off the bat, the movie it reminds me of a Looney Tunes cartoon that I've seen before. And I'm sure that is exactly what it is. The rabbit season.
It's their most famous, one of the most famous episodes. Yeah. And it's a real season. I mean, it's a real episode. So I remember having that. I have the Looney Tunes 50 episodes on DVD, and that's on there. So I did love how it started right off the bat with one of the classic scenes of Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, and then when it cut to when the scene was over and they were kind of like, it went right into the boardroom. I thought, and it's funny because obviously Roger Rabbit, great movie. Space Jam, not so great movie. And like we interviewed Michael Grace, he did Cool World, and he wanted it to have that same feel as Roger Rabbit. And I got to tell you, the animation on top of the film, it looked awesome.
So this is where we're going to be a little different. So
really? Okay.
I think the animation was great. I think the animation looked looked good. Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and all them. However, I think Roger Rabbit looked better.
Oh,
I think
definitely. Yeah.
And that, how long ago did Roger Rabbit come out? I mean, it had to be the 80s?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think the technology, for whatever reason, looked so much better with Roger Rabbit. If you look close, a lot of it it looked like they weren't even holding like hands when they were supposed to. And I felt like it didn't match. The cartoon looked great, but the matching to the adult, the humans, I thought was a little off.
You know who hated this? I don't know if he hated the movie, but he hated the whole process. Joe Dante, the director who did like Gremlins, he did The Burbs. He hated it because the way they did those scenes, like behind the scenes, I posted it for Bruce Lanoil. He was like doing the scene with Jenna Elfman with the Daffy Duck beak. And then what they would do, they would have to shoot the scene again with some kind of like motion capture. And then they had to shoot it again with nothing. Wow. So they had to shoot the same scene 3 times. So he was like frustrated with the whole process. He was not a big fan.
I didn't realize that he directed Gremlins.
Oh,
Did you notice the Gremlins throwback in this movie?
Yeah.
The music?
Yeah, that was cool.
That was awesome.
No, I loved. How about the movie posters in the first scene? Lethal Weapon babies.
Yep.
and the Warner brothers, the two twins, the two fat twins. They're like something we could take our grandkids to.
Well, and that was the start. Even when they went, later on, the other posters about James Bond movies, but like all these posters were geared toward adults. Like again, no children are going to understand what those posters were. So there were so many adult, that's, it is. I think with Roger Rabbit, they were cartoons constantly, but very relatable. I think with like Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, which were throughout the whole movie, they were just one after another. It just almost seemed overboard. It was like one joke after another. It was like nonstop.
Yeah, they even did a Cartoon Network. It was kind of like an adult. It was Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny living together, and they were just going back and forth, and like it was like they were adults living together. Like it was just like this. They were like two guys that hated each other. They loved to rip on each other, and Daffy took the brunt of the jokes. And I thought he was getting a raw deal. He got fired by Jenna Elfman.
Well, not only that, he's basically the Tom of Tom and Jerry, where everything bad happens to him all the time. Yeah. Like he never wins. I don't think Daffy Duck has ever won at any moment. And I think he's reading the script and he's constantly like, hey, listen, I'm just as big as Bugs Bunny, yet I get crapped on all the time.
Yeah, and he was fed up.
Yeah,
he was pissed off, and it was cool that he finally stood up. He's like, I don't want to be the butt of your joke.
Yeah,
I don't want to raise you up and make you the star. Who am I? And he was like, and then I love when Bugs is like, you're the most you're their favorite duck. It's like, there's only one other duck, Donald.
Well, who do you think is more famous, Donald or Daffy?
Daffy.
Think so?
Oh yeah.
Well, I think the one thing about Daffy, at least Donald doesn't even speak English. Like, you can't understand him when he speaks. Wow, that's pretty good.
I didn't know he was going to be on the episode. That's pretty cool.
Well, Daffy would be pissed then.
Yeah.
We didn't ask him.
Can't do it. I know, we should have.
Yeah, and I've noticed, I've always liked Bugs Bunny, but he's kind of a dick.
Oh, he is, yeah.
He's very cocky. And, I think he's just, I kind of feel for Daffy in this movie.
Yeah. No, Bugs is always the smartest guy in the room. And that's why it's funny throughout the movie, all the guys that end up being bad guys. It was funny, like thinking back as a kid watching those cartoons. I'm like, man, he really shafted all those guys. He made them feel dumb.
Yeah. Well, this movie, the one thing they did do, and sometimes I think it was too much, but then other times it was great. They did a lot of throwbacks. They did a lot of throwbacks of old characters that were in all the Bugs Bunny movies. The one I was hoping they would see is that monster. That big.
Oh, I know. I thought he was going to come in. Yeah.
Like that was the only one. Otherwise, you basically saw all the characters in all the movies, which was great.
Yeah. Yeah. The monster and the mob boss.
Yes.
The mafia guy. I was expecting him.
Well, you had the evil scientist, which was the same time.
Cool.
Yeah, that was cool to see him, and it was also cool later on in the scene when they go to Area 52.
Yes, that was awesome.
Those were like some of those robots or monsters were from like the 1950s, of like black and white movies.
Yeah,
so,
that's cool.
Yeah.
So here's one question: since the cartoons live in the real world with humans, how old are they, or do they age?
Well, that was another question I had was, are they living in the cartoon world, the humans, or the cartoons living in the human world?
Oof.
Because there were some, I don't know. I was like, how do you mix that up? And they're right. How do they age? Do they not age at all?
And there wasn't as many. There was a bunch thrown in, and I know they didn't go to a lot of different scenes. They were on the back lot, and then they were in Africa. They were in
the restaurant. Yeah,
so they were like here and there. But I was expecting to see like more just random characters, but it was mostly ones that we knew, the ones that we saw.
And then again, they had some random ones like at the restaurant in the background. You had like the cow or the pig that was in like one of the side, three little pig ones. And, again, it definitely was a cool throwback. And I think only adults would understand, because if any children know Bugs Bunny, they know the typical 5, Porky Pig, which, by the way, outside of the beginning, you don't see Porky Pig at all.
Oh, right? You see him at the very end.
Right. But he really, he's a pretty big character.
Oh, I know.
I mean, who's more famous, Miss Piggy or Porky Pig?
Miss Piggy.
Okay.
In the Pig Off, and I cannot do a Miss Piggy or a Porky Pig.
One other throwback that I absolutely loved, and this is the third time this throwback has come up. You know what I'm going to say.
I know.
The frog?
It's a little foreshadowing because we record some episodes that are in the studio with our guests, and we don't get back-to-back guest episodes. So you'll hear next week's episode, Munchie, when we talk about this character too. But yeah, Mission J Frog again.
I never realized how often he shows up in movies or just a song. It was great, but it was great seeing also the poor Italian guy that he made him look like an idiot. He was in there also.
I know. It's unbelievable how many times that thing, and it's probably going to come up a lot more in this journey of watching these sequels because it is that popular, I guess. So we meet Brendan Fraser, and he's a stuntman. What
happened to him? Like, where is he? Like, is this the last movie he made?
When was Monkey Bone? Just before this, I think.
I was questioning if he was the right person for this role, but then I remembered he made Monkey Bone, so he's used to acting with cartoons.
Yeah.
I guess, but yeah, I mean,
I liked him in this movie because I love people that they can kind of. It's not like he had maybe I could be wrong, but I don't think he has a reputation of being a dick in Hollywood. But the jokes that were made are almost like if that was a thing. But I thought that was pretty funny when he was kind of making fun of himself.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I didn't know either, but it seemed like he had an issue with either causing a problem on set or because they made a joke about it.
Yeah.
And I think there was something with that, and that's why I think when he meets himself later on, which is why I think it might be in cartoon world maybe, but he meets himself and he was kind of a dick when he met himself.
Oh yeah. No, I know. That was the best part because we'll talk about that later. Cause that was like, to me, it like blew my mind, that whole scene at the end.
So I wonder if this might have been maybe sort of a comeback for him after he made the Mummy movies obviously already.
Oh yeah.
So I think this might have been maybe one of his last movies that he made, but I think he was making fun of himself, which was good.
Well, I'm sure he made a lot more movies after this. We just didn't see him. There was one that he was like going against animals in some movie. Yeah, he had a bunch of movies after this that came out. Oh no, we'll get into it. And then let's talk about his dad. So his dad is Timothy Dalton, who is James Bond, was playing a Bond-like character. And the name of the movie on the poster was kind of like a Bond movie name.
Yeah, I wrote it down. Well, there was a couple of movies, but one was License to Spy.
But I'm like, that's License to Kill. It's like, I'm like, man, they're right on the nose. But I love, so Brendan Fraser sees Jenna Elfman, who's tossing Daffy Duck out. Daffy Duck gets fired. And she's basically, she's like some hot shot. So she's basically telling him like, hey, get him off the lot. That's your job. And he's like, well, this is Daffy Duck. How can you fire Daffy Duck? And she's like, just do your job. And then he disappears. And then he has to chase him.
Well, but didn't you find it kind of weird when he's like, she didn't know who he was, but he knew everything about her and the kind of car she drove. And like, he knew like a lot of detail about her. Like, do you think he was a creeper to her?
He was definitely a creeper. And the fact that she almost ran him over in the car and didn't remember that she almost murdered some guy.
Right.
She was like, oh, I almost murdered you? Oh, I do that all the time throughout these lots. Who cares?
Well, she is a female driver. Oh!
I think this was probably the end of Dharma and Grade, but man, I love Jenna Elfman. I don't know. She was in a couple series a few years ago, like pilots, shows that didn't last that long. But I always thought she was so funny.
No, she has good comedic timing. And I think, I think she was good for this role as well. I think she was good. And she looked great. She looked great.
Oh, yeah. No, they were great together. I thought their back and forth was good the whole movie. I love when he's chasing Daffy and Daffy does the old run into the screen. So these cartoons they have secret powers.
Well, that scene was actually from a cartoon of Bugs Bunny. And so when a cop was chasing, I forget who it was. I don't know if it was Daffy Duck or someone. They exact same scene where they ran through like a street like that. So that happened. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So a lot of these scenes were actual cartoon scenes from this, series that they threw in the movie.
So they didn't want to even like write that much. They were like, let's just watch the old cartoons and like see how it feels. Just put a pen to paper. Let's do it.
Did you notice the picture of when they were throwing the Daffy Duck out? And he had a box of all his stuff.
No, what was in there?
It was a picture of Richard Nixon and Bob Hope. So, another joke that the kids will get.
Yeah. Dick Nixon. So how about Batman's in this movie?
I tried looking up who was playing Batman. I would have loved to see that was a big celebrity, but I couldn't find him in the credits or anywhere.
I was thinking this is probably a couple of years before. Oh, you know what? They were probably filming Batman Begins. I think that came out a couple of years later. 2006, I think that came out.
So you think it might have been Christian Bale?
Could you imagine that? That was a screen test?
That would be awesome. Well, I mean, but Batman is what, Warner Brothers or DC or how like
Warner? Oh, well, it's Warner Brothers, but DC Comics.
So I guess they had ownership of it. I mean, I was surprised to see Batman there.
Yeah, and then when you saw when the Warner Brothers water tower fell down, I'm like, somebody's got to die. And all that happened was it just soaked your car. But that was intense that the Batman car just went because Daffy was in it and he hit the gas and you saw the flames coming out of the back of it. I love that old Batmobile. I don't know if they're going to use that in the new one, but.
Well, did you see who the new one is, right?
Yeah, Robert Pattinson.
You see his new suit?
I saw the photos. I thought it looked good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I could see him as Batman.
But everybody said that about Michael Keaton, I'm sure, back then. They were probably like, who the hell is this guy? Mr. Mom is going to be Batman?
Do you know him in anything else besides Twilight? The pale guy in Twilight?
Well, I didn't see Lighthouse, but he was just in the Lighthouse.
Yeah, but it was black and white, so he looked pretty pale.
Robert Pattinson. But, man.
Okay, so they end up firing Brendan Fraser. And
yes.
Now, I've never been fired before, and I've never been a security guard. But do they rip off patches before they fire you and then take a shirt?
I don't know. But I pulled up that guy's name because that guy is in a lot of...
He's in Gremlins.
Was in Gremlins. He's in a lot of Joe Dante movies. He's in The Burbs. He passed away last year at 90 years old. But he had a really cool behind-the-scenes clip. It was Corey Feldman. It was when they were... he was the garbage man in The Burbs. And when they're going through the trash, you ever see this behind-the-scenes clip?
No.
Corey Feldman's like kind of fucking around with him and basically wasting the take. And Dick Miller grabs him. He's like, hey, you punk ass kid, let's get this fucking shit right. Because he was like kind of like joking around, and all the other actors like Tom Hanks and I would never know the neighbor's name, the other guy, but yeah, dude, they all like looked at him and they were like, wow, they probably wanted to say the same thing to Corey Feldman because he was already like on the going downhill at that point.
That's awesome.
He was getting ready to film, Meatballs 4. Probably. But yeah, they took the patch. And then one thing that was really funny, I wrote down, and I guess because it's right after this time, Bugs Bunny, when all the water's in the car, he says, hey, I think I found Nemo.
Yeah. That was Bugs Bunny throughout the whole movie. He just had one-liners. He kind of reminded me of like a Henning Youngman kind of comedian that he had something to say about everything.
Well, he was Munchie. He was Jackie Mason. He just had these lines that he just threw out.
100%. You know what? He definitely reminded me, if anyone's ever seen a movie called Munchie, it reminded me of that character, without a doubt. Nonstop.
How about a cool cameo, Matthew Lillard talking to Shaggy, Casey Kasem. I'm sure if we looked there, that was Casey Kasem's voice. That was the old school Shaggy.
It was Casey Kasem. But, I mean, Matthew Lillard. I mean, I know he played Shaggy. But I mean,
that's pretty funny. He's like, you better not mess with me in the sequel, man. I love Scooby said he was going to eat him like a Scooby snack.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Being that it's Bugs Bunny, I'm sure they could have found a way. You know what? I would have loved to see Casey Kasem on there.
Yeah.
That would have been cool. Matthew Lillard is I don't know. Do you have a Shaggy impression, by the way?
No, I have Scooby. Right. So Timothy Dalton, like he goes to Brendan Fraser's dad is Timothy Dalton, who plays a spy, ends up actually being a spy. So how about his neighbor? That's a nice house, right? It's in California. It's probably $4 or $5 million. What the hell does Granny do for a living that she can afford that? Is that all of her money from being a cartoon character?
It's got to be. I mean, she's not married, right? I mean, they never show any kind of husband or anything else with her.
That's sad.
What I don't understand is now, does she owns Sylvester, correct?
I don't know. She seems like she never knows that he's around. She knows Tweety Bird, but
correct.
Doesn't realize
and she definitely favors Tweety Bird over Sylvester.
Of course.
But she always leaves them next to each other.
I know.
I really can't blame, and I've never seen anyone bring like a birdcage outside.
I know. Well, she is that weird. And again, these characters are so old. Her husband probably died of like polio or something, because she's probably been around since the 40s, 50s.
And she looks exactly the same. She ages well. She looks good for her age.
She's good. That is the Hollywood secrets. That's what they should have had, like Heather Locklear, who's later in this movie. They should have been like, Heather, use the granny technique or have like an infomercial for products that granny sells. That would have been pretty funny.
I mean, she's out there trimming trees and bushes and like, she's got to be close to 90.
She's in great shape. She's in great shape. So,
does she have a name, by the way? Because everybody just calls her Granny.
Just Granny.
Okay.
That's her first name.
Okay.
Her parents knew. Maybe it's like Benjamin Button, but she just never, regressed.
So they just knew that she's going to be a granny their entire life.
She popped out as an old woman.
So this is where I question what world are they in, cartoon world or human world, because as soon as they get in the house and Daffy Duck follows Brendan Fraser there, the article of I was going to say Donald Duck, Daffy Duck getting fired is already in his house. So by the time he left the lot to get home, somehow not only is the article out there, but it's already inside his house.
Cartoon newspapers are instant. It was foreshadowing, like technology. Boom, instant news. The Hollywood Reporter, Daffy Duck fired. How about the one thing that was pretty funny? Like again, this is 2003. So a lot of times when they're looking at the future, they guess things. And there was a couple of them on there that I thought that they were pretty almost on point because cell phones weren't that advanced. But how about the remote control in the house? Why wouldn't they just made like the house phone ring? But no, the remote control started like ringing and vibrating. And then he hit a button and the wall opens up and it's his dad talking to him.
Yeah, and you know what? I didn't realize it was his dad, obviously, until he saw the posters that are on the wall. But what did he think? He thought his dad was just an actor. So his dad was an actor playing a spy, but really a spy playing an. Didn't Daffy say something like that? He made a comment before we knew that his dad was a real spy, saying he was an actor playing a spy, pretending to be an actor as a dad or something like that. It was like, how
it was very like convoluted the way he said it.
Yeah,
I love when he said he's like Daffy when he's sitting there when he jumps out of the backpack and like when they're sitting on the couch before the Timothy Dalton thing comes up, he goes, "So I'm hanging." He goes, "Man, I'm so down in the dumps. I'm hanging out with a fired security guard who lives with his dad."
Yeah, like not for nothing. Daffy is like the loser of the Bugs Bunny world. Like he's always, and he's making fun of Brendan Fraser. So how much does that make? I mean, you can't get lower than that. And you know what? I did write down the poster names. So it was More Is Never Enough. Was there?
Yeah.
The World Is Not Enough or something like that. Isn't there?
Well, The World Is Not Enough. Yeah. And then there's, oh no, that's the movie that it's coming out.
And then there was Operation Conspiracy. That was the other poster. But I don't think that was a James Bond poster.
Yeah, I don't think there's one like that.
But More Is Never Enough. That's. I thought it was a James Bond. The World is something. The World's Not Enough.
The World Is Not Enough. Yeah, that was Pierce Bronson. I think that was his last one. So how about Jenna Elfman is about to get fired because for some reason right away they know it's not going to work with just bugs.
Well, which I thought it was good how they did it. So they showed the same exact scene without.
Yeah.
And obviously it didn't work. So they fired her, which they kind of pushed her to fire Daffy in the first place. And then when she fires Daffy, they're mad at her for firing Daffy.
Yeah.
That didn't make sense.
It's because she's a woman worker in this 2003. How about when she said, "I made this company $950 million," and they looked at each other and said, "But it's not $1 billion." It's like, what?
Well, Bugs Bunny has been around for a long time. And I think, obviously it's when women were not treated right in the workplace. So I think they kind of still had that mentality because she was called Toots. And what was the other name he called her? What he had like 3 other names that were like old school names of calling women, but today would be so like, I guess, put that. So I think they still had the Warner Brothers of old school mentality in this movie.
Yeah. And then even Timothy Dalton's spy car, which I'll jump to a little bit, when he hits a button in the car, it changes. Bugs gets put on like a tuxedo, and she gets her clothes pretty much ripped off, and she's in a pink like tight dress.
And she looked uncomfortable. She looked uncomfortable wearing it. And the other names were Dollface and Baby. So, I mean, I don't think these are things that you would call women today. So
don't do it. If you're listening and you do say that to your employees, you're a psycho.
Yes.
So this I mentioned before. I love the Brendan Fraser when he's sitting on the couch and he's like, "Yeah, I was he goes, "You're not even a real stuntman." He goes, "Well, I was a stuntman in The Mummy, but that Brendan Fraser has such an ego. He cut me out of all the scenes."
Yeah, that was all. Again, when you can make fun of yourself in Hollywood, that's awesome. And he was doing that. Yeah. And
then Daffy, I don't know what it was in reference to, but he said it's a mix between a spy movie and Showgirls. Like, what if a little kid nowadays sees that, even a teenager, like, oh, Showgirls. Oh, I like spy movies. What Showgirls? YouTube? What's going to come up? The scene in the pool.
But Showgirls wasn't made for children?
Well, there are some children like insane things like floating in a pool. That whole scene.
Well, it's like riding a mechanical bull, that scene.
Yes. It was Urban Cowboy. So how about Bill Goldberg's in this movie? That was unreal.
Yeah, well, I guess must have been the high time of his career at the time. I mean,
well, this was probably just before he left WWF because WCW already got bought around this time. So I think this is when he was on his way out. So this is when he started doing a lot of movies.
He made a lot of movies.
Well, he did this. He did Santa's Sleigh, which that's an awesome movie.
Yeah, he played the thug. I don't even know if he had any lines in the movie. Did he even speak?
I don't know. I think he grunted a few times.
Yeah, it's cool seeing him. And then we obviously see who he works for. And,
dude.
And I have such a major problem with this, and I love him. I absolutely love Steve Martin, but man, I don't know what he was trying to do in this role. His accent was. Listen, I know we make fun of John Voight and his accents and whoever else, but man, Steve Martin's accent was horrible. The way he was, he was acting like a 5-year-old, but like flamboyant and what was he trying to do?
I couldn't even guess who he was trying to emulate, but it was, again, I really like this movie, but at the same time, he was very questionable, but then sometimes he was kind of really funny. But no, the accent was horrible. Some of his lines were really funny.
Yeah, I guess. I didn't know what sometimes I think he was just trying too hard to be cartoony, I guess. And I don't know. I just couldn't take it much. He was getting me nauseous.
How about the guy that played the Hellboy was in this movie in a random part? He had barely any lines too. And Hellboy probably just came out or was coming out.
Oh, don't forget, he was also in, what's the motorcycle?
It was Sons of Anarchy, right?
He was also in Beauty and the Beast. He played Beast, in the TV show.
With Linda Hamilton, you watched that?
No, I didn't watch it. I just know the movies he's in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was a TV show. Yeah. Way to fake it.
Yeah, I watched it with my kids before they were born. I think a few of those people that were working there were semi-famous. I think they were all in other movies because they were kind of but you see the name, the titles, some of the titles.
Oh no. Look at you diving in.
Yeah. One was VP of Rhetorical Questions.
Oh, nice.
One was they had these weird names like that. Yeah, forget it. I forgot.
Oh, it's funny. No, that's great because it reminded me of what Jenna Elfman's job was. She was the VP of comedy.
So everybody was VP of something.
Yes. Oh, maybe that was the gag. Everybody was a VP in this movie. So all right. So Steve Martin's the bad guy, and he has Brendan Fraser's dad held captive. But then the whole time you're like, why? And then we find out, right? Oh yeah, the blue monkey. We heard that
blue monkey
on the screen. So blue monkey. I'm trying to think what it could be.
What did he want to do with the blue monkey?
He says later.
Yeah, but up to that point, you don't really explain what they wanted to do or what the blue monkey was. I mean, you knew it was a gem. For what reason? I don't know.
I thought it was rich, but then obviously we find out little by little he's very evil. So he wants to be able to do it. So you're it's got to be worse than that. But here's one of the creepiest but funniest lines was, "Hey, Mary, how about we do a little kissing?" And her face looked like, holy shit, like this is terrible. And he goes, they all are hesitant at first.
Yeah, that line threw me. He goes, "Let's do a little kissing later." And, like I thought he came across very flamboyant. So I was surprised that he did that. It was a little weird.
And then later, they follow up the joke even better later.
Well, listen, he wants to be the last man on earth with her, kind of in a way. Does. So, we'll get to that. So
I love some of this. We talked about the cartoon before, like the way the animation is. There were some really cool scenes in this movie. I really like the Bugs Bunny psycho shower scene. I thought that was awesome.
Okay, so let's speak about that.
Kids won't get that.
No, fine. But so yes, the showers, even with the one eye open, like they really did like almost like a complete recreation of what.
Oh, it was shot for shot, yeah.
Correct. But to get to that scene, now Jenna Elfman barely knows Brendan Fraser. She goes to his house, knocks on the door's open, she just walks right in. So like, if you've gone to someone's house, you don't even know them, you're going to walk right into the house. Not only that, she hears the shower on. She walks in there and pulls the curtain. Like, what if Brendan Fraser was in there?
Maybe she had the crush. Maybe she had a crush on him. Love at first sight.
Okay, but I'm just saying, like, would you hear the music, the shower going? You're gonna walk right in there and just open it up?
Maybe at first she was creeped out the way you said it was kind of creepy that he was stalkery. Maybe she likes that. She's like, this guy knows everything about me. Maybe he watches me. Or maybe he knows something that he should know. So I'm going to try to sneak on him in the shower. And maybe she was really going to do the psycho scene and get rid of him.
That's deep.
That was deep. I know. I had to go there. No, it was so cool. I love that it was like the same exact scene. I love that he pulled out the vial of blood and like shook it.
Yeah.
It was cool, man.
No, that whole scene was just, like I said, it was a shot by shot remake. I mean, they did a great job of it. Again, only adults would understand.
Oh, I know. Kids are like, what's happening, Dad? And then,
they're probably crying. Bugs Bunny died? Like, what?
And then they have to, so then right away, they call Brendan Fraser and he answers and they find out he's going to Vegas?
Well, they're already on the way to Vegas, right? Because they have an Elvis song now. So like,
no, I know that, but I was trying to think of how they knew to go there. Because Bugs was tracking Daffy somehow.
No, they were tracking him with who are you talking about? The bad guy?
Bugs and Jenna Elfman. How did they know that they were going to Vegas?
I forgot.
I think Bugs somehow was tracking Daffy. That's how he knew they were going to Las Vegas.
How was he tracking him?
Oh no, or he called him maybe?
I don't remember.
I think somehow he talked to him.
Well, we are in Toon World because somehow Daffy Duck can get thrown out of the car multiple times and he still comes back.
While they're still driving. And Brendan Fraser keeps going. Yeah.
So, I mean, the fact that he knows where Daffy's going, I'm not surprised that, it's part of the cartoon. That's why I really think they're in Cartoon World.
Yeah.
And the humans are just living in it.
It's a cartoon world and humans just living in it. But no, I love the Elvis playing. And I thought it was cool that they were in the car together. And then the car, because they're using Timothy Dalton's spy car. And
now, why is the steering wheel on the other side of the car?
It's a British car. He's a British spy. He's British.
I know, but he's living in the United States. So
people ship cars all the time.
Have you ever seen a car that had the steering wheel on the other side?
In the United States, yeah.
You have?
Yes.
Where?
There was some guy that selling, when I used to hawk lawn care door to door, there was this guy that used to collect cars and he had one on the other side. It was British.
I've only seen it on a mail truck. Mail trucks have it.
Maybe Timothy Dalton was a mailman in a very nice car.
Okay. All right.
So how about Bugs when they got to the casino, and it was pretty cool that it was Yosemite Sam. That was awesome. It looked pretty legit, like when they're driving down the strip. But how about Bugs? He starts drinking and he says it's 5:00 somewhere.
Well, he has multiple drinks in this movie, by the way. So yeah. So I mean, I definitely think he's got a drinking problem. So he's got an attitude problem and a drinking problem.
He's an actor. He's Christian Bale. He is Christian Bale.
Or maybe he's Brendan Fraser before Brendan Fraser cleaned up his act.
Yeah, he's Brendan Fraser at the end of the movie. Spoiler.
Oh,
but
okay.
So Heather Locklear is in this movie, and
so this is a movie that has again geared somewhat for children because it is music, cartoons, and then you have a stripper.
Yes.
Yeah, and you have a few strippers. That was kind of weird.
So she is a famous singer who is really a spy.
So what they're trying to say is all the spies have dual occupations.
They're in entertainment industry. So if you're in the entertainment industry, you're a spy.
I always thought Betty White could have been a spy.
Oh my God.
There's no way for her. She's like the granny. Like there's no way she hasn't aged. She's looked the same for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Maybe she's a spy.
She's phenomenal.
She's awesome.
She is so awesome. That show with the old people that she had, when all the old people would prank on kids. Oh God.
Is she still alive?
She's still alive. Yeah. It's just her birthday.
What, 99? Is she close to?
I would think so. She got to be close to 100.
You know what? If they do a live action Bugs Bunny, she should play Granny.
Yes.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be weird to have a live action Bugs Bunny. Who would play Bugs Bunny? Joaquin Phoenix, right? After what he did with Joker?
Probably.
It was pretty good. So how about when Daffy kind of, I don't know if it's when he sees Heather Locklear or he sees the girls in the dressing room, he pretty much orgasms and his eyes fall out of his head. And then, oh no, it was when he saw Heather Locklear, and the song that she's singing is, I don't know the name of it, but the repeating line was, "Get yourself a bad girl, a bad girl."
Again, this is a kid's movie, you know. And like, how about the fact that Brendan Fraser's going there to talk to her in the middle of her act? He's like, "Can I talk to you?" As she's singing and dancing, like he's on the side stage going, "Can I talk to you?" Like he couldn't wait for her act to be over. Like he had to talk to her right there.
I love that trope in movies. That's all the time. And the microphone somehow doesn't work when she's backstage. No, I wrote it down. No, Daffy, when he goes past the dresser room, he starts whistling at the girls.
Well, no, he leaves and then he comes back. So he leaves the screen because he goes through the girls, then he comes back to whistle, then leaves again. And then you have Heather Locklear changing behind the folding thing, and Brendan Fraser's trying to take a peek.
Oh, well, who wouldn't? It's Heather Locklear.
I know, but it's a kid's movie.
Just think 2020, man. I don't know what she's doing right now, but she had a rough last couple of years. Really rough.
What if she's listening to this right now?
Well, I want to interview you if you're listening. And I'll delete the last thing I just
Well, according to Doug, you're not doing anything now. So you know, maybe you'll come on a podcast.
Yeah, why not? So Brendan Fraser plays in a blackjack game. And does he know why he's playing in the game? He's just playing, right?
No.
Oh, no, the card. Oh, no,
card.
He sees the card and it flies into.
Correct. Because the father gave him the card, you know, which doesn't explain anything. And so the card flies out because there was an explosion, right?
Yes,
so it flies out and lands in with, remember who's the dealer? Foghorn Leghorn. So he's dealing. So now Yosemite Sam, they're both playing to get that card. Now, does Yosemite Sam understand why does he want the card? Like, does he understand?
Well,
the
he's
card?
a bad guy. He was told by Steve Martin, I think, to get the card because I think he knows about the card. Steve Martin somehow knows everything that's going on. I don't know if Timothy Dalton told him because he was torturing him.
No, he's got a listening device. He's using the satellites to listen and spy in them.
Yes,
so, you know,
that's what it was.
Yeah, he's in a spaceship, right? I mean, Steve Martin, wasn't he?
Oh, I don't know. I thought they were in some tower, like some office building.
Didn't they show a spaceship and then they zoomed in inside and he was in some kind of spaceship? I thought he was in a spaceship.
Oh, I don't know. I remember the spaceship scene at the end of the movie.
I thought he was in a spaceship because that's when you first meet him. I was thinking it would have been great if he was like the judge in Roger Rabbit, Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah. And
then also you find out he's a cartoon.
Well, there is a pretty crazy reveal.
Oh, there's a few reveals.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, Yosemite Sam, he says, what is it? What did I write down? He says, you cook to Foghorn Land. What the hell did he say? You cook? Oh no, he calls him a cock. That's what it was. Yeah. He said, you cock. And I'm like, God, man.
Is that not PC?
No, it's perfectly fine because a lot of cartoons, when you rewatch them, even like with my daughter, I watch like old DuckTales and stuff on Disney Plus. And man, there's like some jokes I'm like, God, as a kid, I should not have listened to that.
But that it was more okay back then, you know, I guess. But in 2003, I thought, you know, it would have been a little bit too risky, you know, but They did it. They threw all these jokes in it.
2003, man, that was when reality boom, man. That was 16 and Pregnant, Survivor, Big Brother. You saw all that stuff on TV.
I guess.
All those dating shows were like at an all-time high.
It wasn't a cartoon, though. I mean, cartoons are what draw the kids. I mean, although I remember, I think my kids were watching SpongeBob, and there's one scene my dad was like babysitting them, and there was a scene where he goes, "Let's do a panty raid," and my father's like, "You're gonna let your kids watch this?" I go, "It's SpongeBob." So I guess, yeah. And
you're probably like, "Dad, you let me watch Porky's."
Revenge of the Nerds was my first big
panty
one.
raid, yeah. So Jeff Gordon's cameo, he's in this movie. And it's pretty funny because that was the whole thing with that they wanted to do after Space Jam. And was it in place of this movie or was it after this movie?
No. After Space Jam, they had a baseball one, I think. They had a racing one. They had like all these different sports.
Tony Hawk.
Right. Tony Hawk. Yeah. None of them panned out. So then they made this. So I think that's why Jeff Gordon was in it, because he was probably the one for the race car one. And yeah.
That driving scene, I'm telling you, I know you never saw any of the Fast movies, but I thought that chase scene was better than all of the movies combined.
Why was he driving backwards in the traffic?
I didn't understand that. I don't understand why they do that in some live action, like real movies. It's like the guy turns around and he's like, "Watch this." It's like, why the hell are you doing that? Based
on how the positions of the cars that were in that traffic, that's probably the best stunt driver I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, yeah. So how about this? So they're in the spy car. And the car flies, okay? Zero panic. No one panics at all. They were totally cool with it.
They were, well, I mean, it is a spy car. She did get her clothes ripped off her, right?
Yes.
While driving. So are you really going to be surprised that it could fly?
No, I guess that is true.
And it was very fitting that a Frank Sinatra song came on, "Fly Me to the Moon."
Yes, that was cool. Now, here's the greatest part of this movie, and I thought it was so funny. I was dying laughing. When they're in the middle of the desert and they come across the Walmart, product placement jokes were so funny. When Bugs starts walking towards it, he's like, "We can grab Coca-Cola, Sprite, insert product placement here."
Yeah, I mean, that was very funny. I mean, they made it so obvious, and this is ran with it. It was great.
And Brendan Fraser and Jenna Elfman broke the fourth wall because that was funny. Randomly throughout the movie, they were talking like they were in a movie. Because right there, like, "Won't they understand this at home?" And he's like, "I don't know." And he looked right at us.
I would say once in a while, you definitely see them look at the camera. So yeah. No, that was awesome.
So then I love when Jenna Elfman comes up because when she comes out of Walmart, she bought like the typical Walmart outfit. It was like an exercise shirt, short jeans like Daisy Dukes, and a straw cowboy hat.
Why are you saying that's typical Walmart?
That's what people that go to Walmart buy.
Do you ever go to Walmart?
Yes, I do.
Did you ever buy any of that stuff?
I'm wearing that right now. You can see it. I'm wearing that exercise suit top. But so I love that another bad guy. Again, a lot of these guys we know from the cartoon. We know who's good. We know who's bad. But Wiley Coyote, man, it's got another guy that's great.
He's one of my favorites, and he's another one that just gets crapped on all the time. I mean, he tries so hard, and not for nothing. He's hungry. I mean, he just wants to eat, and he always gets crapped on. Like, I don't understand. He's one of my favorites.
Yeah, no, he was good. I love when because usually he goes into the Acme catalog. In the old cartoons, he usually calls on the phone and then he waits. Usually, like, looks at his hand, like fake watch, and then it gets delivered. But in this one, he had 3 different options. It was like air, ground, instant, and he was shopping on it. He was using a computer, so that was pretty cool.
Well, I mean, you had to know that it was coming up because Steve Martin works for Acme.
Yeah,
so like you knew, like, we're waiting for him to come out.
So the gags that always happen to him, he has a big rocket launcher. He hits the button first. The end of it like melts him. The flames that come out of the back of the missile melts him. He turns into like a burnt toast. And then the rocket doesn't go forward. It lands right on him. And then I love the backdrop. It like explodes. The explosion's behind like Jenna Elfman, Brendan Fraser, Bugs, and Daffy. And then they come across just a portal in the middle of nowhere.
Well, because it's Area 52.
Dude, I love that.
They had to hide it. But, it's funny that the Coyote, I think Roadrunner and Coyote are the only two that don't talk in Bugs Bunny.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
right? Because he always has signs.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Even on the phone, he said hello. Yeah.
So I wonder why. I was curious, like why they decided to make them two, or forget Roadrunner because he has to beat, but like why can't coyotes, talk?
I don't know. Maybe they could just never find a person that Chuck Jones or
maybe he just like, he can't get into the SAG, right? Because like, does that count as getting to the SAG if you speak through written words?
Oh, probably not. I don't know. I don't know. That's a good one. I guess because you wouldn't be like a voice actor. Yeah, that's a good one.
But you are talking in the movie. Or like, could someone with sign language get in SAG?
I would hope so. In that case, yeah, I would hope so.
Well, then why can't someone that like Coyote get in?
Because he's a cartoon character.
You're telling me Bugs Bunny
not to talk?
Wait, you're telling me Bugs Bunny's not in SAG?
Oh yeah, he is. I'm saying Wiley Coyote, the cartoonist, is deciding that he can't speak.
Yeah, okay. I don't agree with that, but okay.
Okay. So when they're in Area 52, I thought that was pretty funny because she's like, yeah, Area 51's this big joke thing. Joan Cusack. She's great.
She plays a kooky person in every movie she's in. But she's great. I think she is very funny. I mean, I like her. I think she's great.
And she plays a whack job because she's like, Area 51, what a joke. And they're like, yeah, who would believe that? And he's like, we started that. And this place is Area 52. And then Bug's like, oh, that makes sense. And then he holds up the old school sign from the old cartoon, Screwball, with the two signs on it.
Yeah, no, I thought that, to me, this is one of the best scenes in the whole movie, only because they had so many throwbacks. I remember watching some of these like old trailers of like old sci-fi movies, and they had that one monster that it was like a gorilla suit with like a can on his head, or it was like a bucket on his head. Yeah, and now that's a famous like crappy movie monster, and they had all these monsters from there. It was pretty cool. And even was this where the evil scientist was? No.
Yeah. I love that another classic character. Like we said, they covered pretty much all the classic like bad guy characters. Man, this one was so cool, dude. Marvin the Martian, who is so awesome. Steve Martin calls him, which again, I guess he can call all these guys. Cell phones are a thing, but he says, "I want you to kill the duck."
Well, but Marvin the Martian was captured with all the other aliens in there. So he could have escaped all this time?
Or he was a plant and just waiting there because they knew that it was part of the Timothy Dalton, like whatever spy agency that they were a part of.
Okay. All right. Because, I mean, that would make more sense. Otherwise, he could have escaped all this time, so.
Yeah, I would say it's the former. I would definitely say that they were, yeah.
Okay.
So how about when Brendan Fraser asked Joan Cusack about the blue monkey, and she's like, the what? The blue monkey. And then she pulls out a VHS tape. And I know VHS were like still kind of in circulation then. DVDs are coming out, but it's supposed to be like a technological thing. Yeah, well, doing all these experiments on aliens. Couldn't they just make out do like a tiny disc or something? No, it was an old VHS.
Well, I mean, all the aliens they had in there were old school.
That's true. Yeah.
So, and I didn't know what they were doing with that one alien that was on the table.
He was just hanging out, it seems. And then now she explains that after you watch the movie, you find out that the blue monkey is a diamond that turns people into monkeys and then has the ability to turn them back.
So why does Steve Martin want it?
He just wants to turn everybody into monkeys. He wants to be him and Mary. He wants them to be the only couple on Earth.
No, I get it, but why? Like, did they explain like what? And the people that are helping him, all his henchmen, and all the people that work for him, don't they realize they're all going to turn to monkeys too?
I know,
because he only made one shield for him and Mary.
Yeah, I don't know. No, that was definitely major plot hole that they forgot to write about. So Brendan takes over his dad's mission. I thought it was a pretty funny gag when he was like, "Oh, look at all these cool weapons!" When the wall opens up and she's like, "No, those aren't yours." And then he gets a cell phone that has some of the capabilities that cell phones do have now. And obviously cell phones now don't have like a Gatling kind of like, is that what you call it? A Gatling?
I guess, but yours doesn't have that?
It does not have that.
What do you have, an Android?
No, I haven't. I do have a tip calculator, which was one of the features when she goes, it has GPS. And then at first I'm like, they're going to say like normal things. And then there was obviously jokes in there, but tip calculator, and it can shoot off this thing. Grappling hook? Yeah, grappling hook.
Grappling hook. And it does come in handy.
It does. And that, it was cool the way, we'll get into that in a second. Well, it's pretty much the next scene. But no, so all the aliens pop out and they're like getting ready to, basically try to kill, everyone. I like Bugs when he went into the one creepy guy's face. The one guy was like all pale, and maybe it was Robert Pattinson. I don't know. But he had all black eyes, and Bugs starts popping popcorn inside of his head.
Well, that's what makes Bugs Bunny so like he's an out of the box thinker.
Yes.
He doesn't do the normal stuff, and he put popcorn in there, and his whole helmet filled up with popcorn.
I like Joan Cusack. She's like, "This is the button. I knew this was going to happen one day." What did the button say?
I knew this would happen one day.
And they pull it and then all run out. And then they're like, "Oh man, we have to go. The Mona Lisa. We have to go to Paris, France. How are we going to get there?" And then I love that the old page turn.
Well, I remember watching as a child. One of my favorite Bugs Bunny one was when he was arguing with the artist. I don't know if you remember that. I think it was Bugs. I think it was Bugs Bunny. So you see, like every time he said something, no, it was Daffy Duck. Maybe it was either Bugs Bunny or Daffy Duck, where you see the artist's hand drawing, and
Daffy Duck.
It was Daffy Duck.
Yeah.
And that's like one of my favorite ones. So like this kind of reminded me of just like, kind of interactive.
Yeah, because he erases. I remember him erasing everything but his beak.
Yeah,
and then he's like,
Yeah.
Yeah. So they get to the Louvre where Mona Lisa is, and they're trying to figure out what's his card do. Daffy and Bugs are dressed like old school robbers from like the 40s. And I love that Jenna Elfman or Brendan Fraser right away. Oh, this is all you have to do. They figure out on the spot, peel the back of the card, and then it's like an old decoder. And you get to see Mona Lisa in a bra.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a little weird. That was, yeah.
But it was an old woman, like an old grandma bra.
Well, how old is she?
She's got to be like 300, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, she probably, yeah, that was weird. But then was this before they were being chased?
This was before they were being chased. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, because I also enjoyed this scene too. I mean, I know I was negative about the movie, but this scene was pretty cool when Elmer Fudd was chasing him.
Oh, dude, I wrote down his line. "I'm secretly evil and I must please my dark master."
And then they start running into the famous paintings. Oh. See that? I thought that was great.
Dude, this was by far the coolest thing in a movie. Like, honestly, it looks so cool the way that when they were in the Salvador Dali, when they were in that one and everything was melting with, the famous painting with the melting clocks, and when they're running and they're like, "Oh no." And then his gun is melting and he's trying to prop it up with like a stick and it's kind of like flopping around. I thought that was so cool.
That they ran into the Scream.
Yes.
I mean, awesome all of them, it was just very cool, like throwbacks. But see, I think that's where the movie works, is more cartoon stuff like that. I'd rather see than, the other stuff. And I think that's what it was missing, but we'll get there.
Yeah. But when he stepped on, that was funny when they're in the Scream, they're slowly moving and Bugs steps on Elmer's foot and then he does a scream and it looks so cool because it was the same drawing, just obviously with Elmer Fudd's skin tone and the hat. But so now Pepe Le Pew, Bruce Lanoil, that was cool, man.
He sounded exactly like he's
Nailed
awesome.
it.
He really did. I mean, that's amazing. And I would never have known that his multiple like voice people that do all these movies all this time, like all the cartoon voices. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And he nailed it on the spot. He said he couldn't do it in the studio. He actually did it like on set and nailed it.
Wow.
And they were like, "All right, cool. That's you." And Bill Goldberg, all while this is happening, Bill Goldberg kidnaps Jenna Elfman, and his idea is take her to the top of the. I don't understand why they have to do that. Why do you take him to the top highest? Just run away.
And to the helicopter was going to pick him up there.
Oh my God, dude! Who was flying the helicopter? It was it somebody? It was a cartoon. I forget who it was. I don't think it was anybody famous, but it looked really goofy. I don't know. Oh, the Dodo Bird.
Yes. No, the vulture. The vulture.
The vulture. Yeah.
The vulture. Yeah.
Which way did he go, George?
Yeah.
Which way did he go? Yeah, that was cool to see him. So he's bad too because Bugs dogged on him.
Well, he is a vulture. I mean, they feed on the prey. I mean, but Bill. First of all, he stole her. He put her in a money bag. Wasn't he running with like a big money bag?
Yeah.
And no one stopped him. Like no one noticed that he's running with this big bag that's screaming. Like she was yelling out of there.
mean, that's a normal thing in France.
That's true.
It's normal, babies drinking wine, teens smoking cigarettes, and women screaming in bags. But I love that his idea was, I'm just going to throw her. He just threw her off the top. He gets in the helicopter. He's leaving. And then Brendan Fraser runs up. He saves the day by using that old cell phone that has a grappling hook.
I forgot that he had that. And I'm like, what is he doing? Because he jumps right off. Too. Yeah.
And they acted like the Eiffel Tower was, I don't know, like 3 miles in the sky because they were floating for so long. And then he used the grappling hook, swing, save the day. And all the while, we know that he has a crush on her because he goes, yeah, this were a movie. You and I would be together at the end. And then that's when Goldberg took her because he looked behind and she wasn't there. But he thinks about grabbing flowers and chocolates. And then they land perfectly at a nice cafe.
See, but that's a cartoon move.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So I'm going back to that. They have to be in cartoon world because he somehow swung right by the flowers, picked it up, picked up the chocolate, and they sat down right there.
Yeah, and then so Steve Martin at the next part, he's back there. He's pissed off because nobody's getting the job done. And he goes, I have to unleash my biggest bad guy of them all. And I thought it was going to be the red hairy guy. I thought it was going to be that guy. And then when it was Tasmanian Devil, I'm like, this is awesome. Did you know who voiced Tasmanian Devil in this movie?
No.
Brendan Fraser.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Well, did Tasmanian Devil say any words though?
No, he just that's all he did the whole time, but he nailed it enough that they didn't have to like Space Jam. The big problem with Space Jam was they didn't use any of like the real Chuck Jones guys, and it was basically just impersonators, I guess you could say. But
oh, really? For Space Jam? I didn't know that.
That was a big issue with it. They didn't use Chuck Jones' son was working on it. They basically threw out a lot of the people that were like the main voice people. So
Brendan Fraser did that. Wow.
Yeah. So now they have to go to the African jungle. They're like, oh, we got to go to Africa. And Granny is in Africa riding an elephant.
Not only that, Tweety Bird's wearing an African garb.
Oh, my God, dude.
I mean, again, I don't know. I thought that was kind of weird.
It was like a Farrakhan. And then he said freedom and put up the Black Power sign. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God, that was insane. And then, here's what I wrote down. So Granny is randomly there. So at first I was like, obviously it's random because it's the neighbor. And the way he talked to her in the beginning of the movie, it was like they knew each other for a while, not a brand new neighbor. And I was like, Brendan Fraser does not have a mom. There's no photos in the house of a mom. And I was like, is that his mom? Is that going to be something like that? And then I was like, it couldn't be that, but it was so random that she was there.
See, I thought she was like maybe an assassin, like she was a bad guy, and she was hired. This is almost like a John Wick thing. They're all going after Brendan Fraser, and I thought like she was hired by Steve Martin to, take the gem. So
that's where they got the idea for John Wick. This
probably,
movie.
Yeah.
And then you had the typical Indiana Jones type scene when they're going for the blue monkey. They figure out the code.
Well, she just saw this metal thing and she realized it was a puzzle.
Yeah.
Like,
I know. And then everything gets shot out. It's like that typical, I don't know.
And somehow he became really good with a sword.
I know. He blocked everything. Like, yeah, that was, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know if he used it. Was he holding it? Or did Daffy grab it? The blue diamond? And then it turned Brendan Fraser into a monkey. And then he was basically going to leave him as a monkey. Daffy was like, hey, I want to turn you back. And then he turned him.
Don't forget, Daffy gets crapped on all the time. So he was a little tired of it. And not for nothing, Brendan Fraser was kind of addicted to Daffy the entire movie.
Yeah, they didn't. Yeah, they had a good like they hated each other the whole time. It was no love hate. They pretty much hated each other. He threw him out of the car multiple times. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then Granny shows up. And you're like, oh, Granny's right here. And Sylvester, what's going on? So Granny is Steve Martin. And Sylvester is Bill Goldberg.
Okay, so does that mean that Steve Martin is his neighbor?
I know, that's what I thought.
Or is he just dressed as Granny, or is Granny really not Granny? Like that's kind of.
I know I was thinking like maybe the whole time that's how we got some intel on the dad.
Right.
And I'm Brendan Fraser and I know so much about him. I know he had the satellites. Maybe he was doing that ruse the whole time, and then he goes, I'm not actually, I don't remember Steve Martin's character's name, but then he turns himself into Timothy Dalton and then into Michael Jordan and then back to Steve Martin.
And, I laughed when you saw Michael Jordan because they wanted him to do Space Jam 2 and he didn't want to.
Yeah.
But he put, so this is almost like an FU, like going into this movie. Like, I didn't want to be Space Jam, but here, let me just do this little.
I didn't look it up. He was obviously well retired by this point, about 4 years. What they could have done, they could have used archive footage because that could just be, they could have just cut it into there somehow. That could be a footage from like Space Jam, the original Space Jam, and just use a cut they didn't use.
You know what? It would say it on the in the credits.
It didn't have it all. Oh, well, it could be uncredited. So it might be on IMDb, but not in the actual credits at the end of the movie. Maybe that was like their FU back to him. Like, you don't want to do it? We have this footage. You're under contract. So I don't know. But,
and the whole scene is funny because early in the movie you had Scooby and Shaggy, and that was a total Scooby-Doo kind of reveal.
Yeah, they should have done that with like the dude. Not even the peel of the thing. They should have done like the mask.
Yeah,
that'd been a really good ending to have Matthew Lillard or Shaggy come back and do that whole thing. But then Bill Goldberg is actually a female Tasmanian devil.
Well, then I had a question about that. So the whole time, it's really a female Tasmanian devil. Like,
it was like, so it was a female Taz that was Bill Goldberg that was pretending to be Sylvester,
and just to get with Tasmanian devil.
I don't know. I never knew there was a female.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah. I've seen her like one or two. Listen, there's a female Bugs Bunny too. There's a multiple female Bugs Bunnies, I think.
Well, there's maybe a multiple female Bugs Bunny, but then there's a Bugs Bunny that does RuPaul's Drag Race. Because he does that earlier in the movie. At the table, randomly, in front of Jenna Elfman, they're eating breakfast. He turns into a woman.
Turns into a woman. He also turned into Groucho Marx. Yes. We skipped earlier. Yeah, no, he's good. He's like the master of disguise. Maybe he's was it Linguini or
Pistachio?
Pistachio.
He's John Boyd. And just always changing. So the bad guys have Brendan Fraser and they're holding him back. Oh no, this is so that for some reason they kidnap them. And I never understand that movies. Why kidnap? You have what you want. Why kidnap a guy that can foil your whole plan? So they bring him into what you said might be a spaceship. I thought it was just like an executive office. So they're in this room and all the bad guys are holding Brendan Fraser back because Steve Martin's like, we're about to kill your dad. But it was pretty funny that they had him laying on the train track. The train was going to crash into him. There was dynamite. There was a swinging guillotine. And he was pissed off about that. Steve Martin's like, whoa, I did not ask for the swinging guillotine.
I forget what he called it.
Well, it was a runaway train of death.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, he gives the blue monkey to Marvin the Martian to go and put into the satellite. So Brendan Fraser's getting held back, but the bad guys don't think about holding back Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. Like two guys that can probably do anything. They don't get hurt. And they just chase right after Marvin the Martian. It
almost seemed like Steve Martin didn't even see them. Like he wasn't even focused on them whatsoever. And I do like the fact that they work together on this.
Yeah, and Steve Martin says so many times, not even kill Bugs, it's kill the duck. Now he doesn't really even care about the other ones. At some points in the movie, later on, he wants them all dead. But he just, for some reason, he just lets him go.
So even the bad guys want to give no respect to Daffy Duck. Yeah. And meanwhile, Bugs Bunny is the one that is a problem with everybody.
Daffy Duck is the Rodney Dangerfield of cartoon characters.
He really is. But you know what, though? I think in ducks in general, because even Donald Duck, he gets crapped on. Yeah, so it might be a duck thing.
Might be ducks. Ducks do not get respect.
No.
So Steve Martin, we talked about it earlier. His big plot, his plan is, I want to turn everybody into monkeys. Does it make sense? No. But then he has Mary, who he sexually harassed earlier in the movie, back for more. And she looks so scared and frightened when she's in that room. She almost looked like she was hit. Like, it was weird, man.
I thought she reminded me of the mom. I thought at first was the mom from Addams Family. Morticia.
Oh, Angelica Houston?
Yeah.
I kind of look like her.
A little bit in the beginning. But I still don't understand, like, everybody there were all going to turn to monkeys. So even his employees, they were helping him basically turn themselves into monkeys.
Yeah, I would say this plan's bananas, but that's just me.
Whoa.
So one thing that I thought was so stupid, and another thing that they could have used I really thought the red guy was going to show up, him or the mafia guy, but the robot dog.
Was he in any of the cartoons? Nothing,
I don't
right?
think so, because he was like live action. He wasn't a cartoon. He was
that was weird. I didn't understand that, but I guess it was more for distraction.
Yeah,
it really didn't do anything. But yeah, to me, the monster would have been like the best part. Like,
yeah.
At that point, you need to stop them. Bring out the monster.
Yeah, no, that would have been awesome. So I love Bugs when he's going. He basically Daffy Duck and him kind of like, okay, who wants to go save the Earth? And so Bugs goes, okay, I'll save the humans. He gets out and he says, "What's up, Darth?" And then pretty cool lightsaber battle that they go back and forth.
Well, I was trying to think of how he knew how to use a lightsaber until I saw that he was reading a book saying the Force for Dummies.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't see that.
Oh, you didn't see it? So while he's swinging the lightsaber, he's reading a book at the same time. Force for Dummies.
That's awesome. One cool throwback. Obviously, a lot of these, everything that they mentioned, because it's not like they weren't remaking like Bugs Bunnies in the 90s, 80s. I don't know last time they made them, but it was cool. Duck Dodgers, when Daffy Duck got into his garb. And he just kept, like always, exploding himself. Every missile that he tried to put on his back just kept exploding.
Well, every time he said the name.
Yeah.
So every time he said the name, the Duck, to me, Duck Dodgers reminds me of Dom DeLuise in Cannibal Run.
Yeah.
Captain Chaos. Like it's like his alter ego that, gives him the courage and, get things done.
And I really thought, for, again, a cartoon, a kid's questionable adult movie, I thought it was really cool ending because it was cool to have Daffy as the hero. He's basically like blown to smithereens. He's trying to do everything and he has his beak. He uses his beak to throw it onto the satellite, and then it's talking on the satellite, and it catches the blue monkey beam, and it basically melts the satellite. He saves the day.
Yeah. Well,
that was cool.
Listen, for once, he got respect. Rodney got respect,
But he really didn't.
Well, Bugs did say he did give him credit.
But then he did the reverse psychology. That was good.
Well, at the end of the movie, was that Harvey Weinstein?
It looked like him.
Going into the limo, right?
Oh, dude, that kind of looked like him. Could be. I don't know if he worked. Maybe he worked for. I know we could look.
Well, because I looked. One of the producers when the credits were going on.
It is Weinstein, but not Harvey.
No, it was like maybe his wife, Linda, or is he married?
Oh, I did see that. Yeah, it was a female name.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, that guy looked. If it wasn't Harvey Weinstein, it looked like someone that should have. Like they were trying to say it was Harvey.
Well, we'll have to go back and check that out. So Steve Martin is the only one that gets turned into a monkey. And Timothy Dalton, he has monkey cuffs. I guess he has like a universal like handcuff kit, and monkey ones were ones that were on there. And here's the part that was so screwed up. So Steve Martin's a monkey. Mary, she's free to go. She was crying like she was sad. He really screwed up her head. She was bawling.
I see things differently. I don't know if he was. I don't know.
I think he was. Maybe they always had a relationship, and he finally just blurted it out. Maybe they were dating for months.
You know what? I still think that he was a cartoon. Steve Martin was a cartoon because he acted like a cartoon. Like he, the way he moved, and so I'm thinking like Mary's not who Mary looks like, because obviously Steve Martin has a bunch of disguises, and I think Mary's someone else.
Maybe Mary is the big hairy monster.
There you go. How amazing would that have been if at the end of the movie that comes out?
Or that's what she calls what's between her legs.
Oh.
It was in my head.
Oh, this was a kid's show.
All right. So this is pretty much the end of the movie. They're walking through the hallway, and then we see that it's a movie. We were watching a movie getting made the whole time. But one part that I thought was really cool, and then I was so confused, was Brendan Fraser is standing there with what awards does he have? They look like fake Oscars. But then I thought it was going to be, that's what blew my mind. So we watched a movie with an actor who wasn't Brendan Fraser, but Brendan Fraser that made no sense.
Why? It was like a opening, any actors can go in there. It wasn't like he was in the movie.
It was a movie. We watched a movie getting made.
So you're saying, I know, but so maybe Brendan Fraser was the star in it, and the whole time the other guy was the stunt double.
Oh, maybe. And then he was just there, and then he punched himself in the face.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty cool.
That was kind of weird. Yeah. So you know what? I think that's probably what it was. That they made the movie, but he was the stunt the whole time.
And then Porky Pig, he gets to say that's all, and they shut the lights off on him.
Did you know that there was an end credit scene?
No, it wasn't.
It was a deleted scene of Daffy Duck running in the casino. The bad guy's chasing him, and then he pulls a slot machine, and 3 bombs come across. And the big goons looked at it. They thought they won. They put their hands out, and they blew up.
Oh, look at that! Look at this guy watching past the credits. Avengers only tricks Jamie one time.
That's it.
And then he stays till the very end.
Every movie.
I was off right away. All right, so that was Looney Tunes back in action. Jamie, what'd you think?
Like I said, I mean, I comparing it to Roger Rabbit, which was the original humans and cartoons, I don't think it holds water. I think Roger Rabbit was in a class of its own. I love Bugs Bunny. I think that if you're a Bugs Bunny fan, watch it because there are a lot of throwbacks that you may appreciate. If you could care less about Bugs Bunny, I don't think it's a kid's movie. I think it's more of an adult-related movie. But I think if they could make it better, I would have liked to see more with Bugs Bunny and some of the characters that we didn't get to see. Like the Orange Monster, maybe a little bit more something with Porky Pig, or a little bit more, almost like a Muppet movie. Like make it more like where the Muppets are, equally showing scenes.
Yeah.
Have it with more of the Looney Tunes.
Yeah, I obviously more cameos been cool. There were some good ones in the movie, like Heather Locklear was cool. Steve Martin, even though he was silly, it's cool to see Steve Martin in a movie. And you know what? We've seen a lot of movies that I've never seen before, through doing this. I think this is our 26th sequel. And it was pretty funny. A lot of times I'm like, oh, but I actually enjoyed it. The adult jokes were pretty funny. Steve Martin was weird, but I actually enjoyed this movie. I would say, honestly, check it out because I thought there were some really cool parts in it. The running through the artwork was really awesome. And I don't know, there was a lot of funny jokes.
Yeah, you can go to YouTube and put in the funny scenes and you don't have to sit through the whole movie.
Jamie will cut that video together so you guys can check it out. So that was Looney Tunes back in action. Next week, we have a guest, my buddy Nick. He said he wanted to be a guest, so I gave him an Oscar snub film called Munchie. Yes, a singular movie is a sequel. The original is called Munchies. But yeah, so this movie's Munchie. Check out the trailer. It is mind-blowing. But before we get to that, I was lucky enough to interview Don Fauntleroy. It was his first, this movie, when I interviewed him, I didn't know what movie, sometimes when I interview folks, that's going to touch the nerve, that they say oh my God, this movie, after you see it, this movie just struck a chord with him because it was the first time Roger Corman, who produced a bunch of these movies like Saturday the 14th, gave him a shot. And this is the first time he was the director of photography, and he absolutely loved it. He was cameraman on Goonies. He worked on E.T. He worked on Terminator 2. And then he went on to direct and work on Jeepers Creepers, Anaconda, which I'm sure you've seen before. So yeah, this guy was really cool. And again, Munchie is on Amazon Prime. So if check it out, don't forget to review, rate, share our podcast. Don't forget to follow us on all social media at Sequels Only and our new website, sequelsonly.com. Good night.
Good night.